Hello. Please let me know if you can hear and see us. So if everything is okay, we are going to start. You can write in YouTube channel comments. So yes, you can also turn on your video. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. So we will wait maybe 1 minute, and I don't see any pluses in the translation. Yeah, it's perfect. So great. It's perfect. So okay. Well, if everything is okay, we can start. So hi everyone, one more time, and welcome to the stream. Today we are running a collaboration webinar with Geeklab, and it's called Key Drivers of App Success from Marketability to ASO. Sorry for my pronunciation. So do you have an app idea, or even have you published it? So now it's time to start thinking about how to test the concept, make ASO, and of course, grow your product. And the first speaker is Lempiäinen. So yeah, I pronounced it right.
Yes.
He is a chief executive officer and co-founder of Geeklab, ASO, and analytics platform. And as Geeklab team represents itself, we help companies that market their apps and games save millions by optimizing the most crucial part of their user's journey, though our technology and expertise, the thousands of tests and millions of data points give us. So yes, sir, you can start. I will just a second turn on your presentation.
Yeah, awesome. And thanks for the intro. It's always pleasant that someone nails it down and does it well, so you don't have to do it yourself. So that's awesome. Thanks a lot.
So it's time for your show, and I will turn off my microphone, and so you can start.
Yeah. Brilliant. So yes, the title shows I'm gonna focus a bit more in the sort of earlier part of the funnel, so marketability optimization. From our platform point of view, like we have approximately like 50% of the tests that we see on our platform are actually in this space. So we do have a lot of people that are already doing this, but as I'm going to share in a bit later, it's not too late to start. Like running these marketability campaigns ever. So really recommend, specifically after this webinar, that you guys also jump in and start to optimize as early as possible. But cool, yeah, let's kick things off by quickly showing something that you all of you are more or less familiar with. Like this might look a bit different for each company, right? But like a very generic way of kind of viewing how the initial launch of a product looks like is that you have your internal idea. You start to move that for production, and then once you actually have a product that you can start to test with the audience, so then you maybe start to call it a soft launch, and then you validate the sort of the idea and the marketability with that audience. And then once you kind of have your KPIs right, so then you can globally launch your product, and then the continuous loop of live ops and other things related to your product or in-game optimization starts. And this is like a very generic way of like seeing how most launches go. And if we go to the next slide, we see something that we most often see when we hear about like launches like this. We look from outside and it all looks super pretty because the rockets are flying high up to the orbit and everything goes well. But like most often, this is actually the case. This is something we don't see. A lot of the launches, like they fail. Like you take SpaceX, I think it was their last chance to launch the rocket before like they ran out of budget when they actually finally got that up to the orbit and back safely to the launch pad. So what we don't see is the massive amount of failure that goes behind every successful launch. So then when we look at the basically launch how you launch a product from this perspective, there's a couple of issues that we think that might be the reasons why this happens quite often. And one of them is that like actually the first time you truly start to test the product's marketability with real audience in like the real environment that the audience would preserve that product is actually only at that stage. And when you look at the roadmap like this, it's kind of already half of the funnel. And then also like if the KPIs are not met at the end of the soft launch, so you're already like spent quite a bit of money, and it's hard to then like start to get more runway and hard, like basically get to the point where you could release the product. So it truly feels more like a launching of a rocket. On top of that, then there's also the issue of the fact that most often, if we go to the next slide, so when you do this, like the marketing of the product goes a bit separate track than the actual development of the product, and they don't talk too much with each other, and maybe even have their own KPIs as well. And then lastly, if we go to the next slide, the cost accelerates over time as well. So the further you are, the more you've already spent, and the harder it is to actually make the whole launch profitable. So that was all issues. What are the solutions to this? For us, we see that it's definitely marketability optimization. So if we go to the next slide, introducing marketability testing. And what does it mean really? Like if we again like move it forward to the next one, how does this truly differ from like the traditional App Store optimization? Well, fundamentally, like if you click once more, so then we should see a card pop up, and once more maybe. Here we go. So traditionally, if you talk about like App Store optimization, that's more like driving an F1 car, like fast speed. You make tiny changes that actually then allow you to bypass your competitors. That's more of like what traditional ASO is. You're not doing like the world's biggest changes, but rather like making sure that your product is well communicated with your customers, and you're like doing the traditional ASO, optimizing your keywords and all of that stuff. But that's truly optimization. Whereas then, like the marketability testing is more like deciding if we're still in the car context. So deciding whether or not you'd pick a car that has an electric or a traditional engine. So all the questions that we usually get answers to with marketability optimization, those are way like bigger than tinier nuances that also do matter, but maybe a bit more at the later stage. Cool. Then if we move to the next one, so what does this truly mean? So we do have examples as well. So if you hit one more arrow, so our good friends at Funcraft allowed us finally to share something that we did actually quite a while back. The thing with marketability optimizations are that people usually want to keep these quite a bit of a secret, because when you do these things, you do this like quite early, like maybe a year before you actually launch the product. So then you of course want to keep your secrets to yourself, but our good friends at Funcraft now allowed us to share some of the stuff that we did with them a while back. And as you can see, all of these, like, look, like we can still be in that for a second, Norris. So if you compare these against each other, so as you can see, like they look vastly different, right? Like not even the same game. And in marketability optimization tests, that's actually quite the point. We'll go into hypotheses in a second a bit more. But in here, the questions that we truly want to get answers to are way bigger than simply optimizations. But for example, in here, we truly wanted to find out like which of these ideas would resonate best with the target audience. Given that it's a word game, that was something that had already been decided. But on top of like the fact that it was a word game, there was a lot of different things we could have done with it. So for example, here you see that with one of these, we truly went for like, what if the game would have an IP attached to it? So basically a protagonist, in this case, a dog, which is the one on the bottom left corner. Or what if we'd emphasize more on the visual feedback of things, and that's what like the top left is actually doing. Or what if we're like trying to mimic like the very traditional newspaper style, which is then the bottom right. So basically, that's what marketability optimization truly is. You find these bigger ideas. You want to find out, okay, these are all great hypotheses, but which of these actually do perform the best with my target audience? Cool. So how do you do this then? So in the next slide, there's like a very simple flow chart. Now that Facebook changed their name to be Meta, so we updated that here too. But essentially, most often these campaigns are run on platforms like Facebook. The reason for that is that you get like relatively good targeting options there. So if you have a hunch on what your ideal target audience would be, so Facebook is one good way of finding that target audience. And in here, like what the different colored boxes present are like different ideas. So again, previously we had like the word game, but we could, for example, also, let's imagine we decided that we'd build a puzzle game. So something like Candy Crush, that would be like the core of our title. But now the question would be, okay, which of the themes would work the best? One of our teammates said that, okay, he's found through his market research that space and cyberpunk and all that futuristic stuff is actually something that's going to happen a lot in the movies in the upcoming years. There's a lot of other titles in different genres that are happening around that, so that could be a potential good idea. So the black box on top could actually present like a cyberpunk theme now. Okay, then in the middle, another teammate says that, okay, based on his research, he saw that, basically Gardenscapes and that sort of building your mansion is already proven to work well with match 3 titles, and there seems to be still a lot of space in that market area. And then the last one could be something totally else. So now we'd have like 3 totally different concepts. And now the idea is that you'd actually create both the acquisition ad as well as the App Store materials for each of those themes, so that like in the center, like everything else would be the same. So the characters would be in the same spot. There would be the exact same taglines in the same spots. But what would differ between the variants would then actually be the theme itself and the theme alone. And then you'd run like 3 different ads on Facebook that would go into 3 different pages on our platform. And in that way now, you can actually measure those full funnels against each other, and even get like the estimated CPI even before you develop the title. So that's in its very core how the flow of these tests usually go. Cool. Then if we go to the next slide, so what you need to run a campaign like this. So basically, there's a quick screenshot of our platform where you actually build these pages. That's there to demonstrate that you can actually either fetch things from the store, but you can also just manually go in there and upload all the different informations yourself. So again, you can actually run these campaigns before having an app out on any of the app stores. And for Facebook, what we need to have a test like this per variant, we need a static image, the headline, and then basically one Facebook page that you would attach to that ad. So all of those are actually pretty simple to make. And then on the App Store side, so on our platform, basically, you need an icon, 2 screenshots, title, description, category, subtitle, and developer. That's all you need. We do recommend to have 4 screenshots. The reason for that is that if you have 4 screenshots, so then you'll have more interesting data points, for example, and you can see how far did the user scroll when they scroll through the screenshots and stuff like this. But yeah, that's basically pretty much everything you need to run a campaign. And therefore, as you can see, it's not that much. And therefore, we've seen a lot of developers adopt this mentality and run these tests earlier and earlier in the product's lifecycle, which is awesome. Cool. Then if we go to the next slide. So most often then, the users, when they click the download button on the page on Geeklab store page, that looks and feels exactly like the App Store page does. So when they click the download button, now they obviously don't have an app where they could go into and that they could download, as that app doesn't exist yet. So what we most often do is that on our platform, we do also have our internal survey tool, which is now a practice that we highly recommend. It can also be any other survey tool that you might use. But essentially so that the user journey would go in such way that like when they click the download button, they are now in the survey, and in the survey you can communicate and say, okay, we're super excited that you were interested about our product. Unfortunately, it's you're so early in the game that the app isn't even out yet, but you can actually influence how we develop the game by answering a couple of questions here, and then drop your email at the very end, and then we'll let you know once the app is out. That's a practice we've also done with every of the tests that we do, and when we do that, so even though people might be super excited about a product and then they find out that the product doesn't exist yet, they don't really get mad. Instead, like they even feel great, because now they were able to be part of the very early adopters of that new product. We also tapped briefly into motivations, in the description. In this we briefly also talk about motivations and how to apply those in marketing. So that's something that the survey is also extremely good for. So if you build your hypothesis around different player motivations, and this is specific to games, by the way, but can also apply to other products as well. But if you do that motivation framework, so then in the surveys you can actually validate whether or not like users are also within that framework. So you can ask like, what are the main things that you keep you playing and stuff like this, which can then be sort of cross-checked with your different hypotheses. And if we give context to it, so if you click the next slide, so in this particular example, for example, the word the one that had the IP, so the idea behind that particular variant was actually that we believe that immersion motivation would be a good thing to be applied with this word game, because no other game had done that yet. So basically adding different story elements like elaborate plots, interesting characters that would bring meaningful content for the users, which would make them play more and more. So that was one example of a motivation. But then on the other hand, like if you click the next slide, so then we also had the other one where we wanted to try out like action motivation then instead. So with like the different colors and objects out from the the grid, we'd emphasize on the fast-paced action and surprises and thrills that the game would have, as that particular game also had like a second counter. So that was in the very core of the game, to have that sort of exciting moment ongoing all the time. Funny thing, and the reason why I also picked both of these in here, these two motivations, like we were totally wrong with our hypothesis on this one. What people truly wanted to play the games for in this particular game was just for the pure spending time and actually enjoying the strategic elements rather than the immersion and action. So the worst variant out of all these was actually the IP one, and the one that ended up winning and the game is actually out now was the one on the bottom right with the green background. Cool. Then if we go to the next slide, so here's the framework that we use for motivations. This is by Quantic Foundry. I highly recommend to go in and check their stuff and their GDC talk about it as well, because we do apply this to all the marketing that we do, and we found it extremely good for specifically games, as this is for gamer motivations. I kind of gave you guys two examples already, but basically what we do when we apply this framework is that we condense and take all the different marketing messages, pile them into one, and make sure that everything that we talk about are focused on 2 or 3 of these motivations to make sure that the message is very clear. And when we do that, we've always seen great success. Cool. Then in the next slide, we still have one example. So now we've talked briefly about like motivations and themes and all these different types of things that you can test. But art style is also something that you can specifically test as well. In this particular game, like a case, if you go to the next slide, or hit the button once, here we go. So this was a live title that was already in soft launch, done by Rovio, actually, a puzzle RPG title where like they had like the game core mechanics of the game was like around puzzle, but then it was heavily like RPG role playing related game. So the characters were a very, very crucial part of that game and the story of it. So we wanted to see if there could be a different art style that could work even better than the ones that was currently in that game. And these were the ones that were there. Like usually we've done a poll here. So we've asked like, okay, do you guys, what do you think? Which of these won? Now I think you've seen already the next slide, so you know who won. So we can't do the poll here, but this was the one that actually then outperformed like the original ones by 20%. So like that's a massive increase just by changing the art style on the marketability of the product. So 20% cheaper installs when this art style was applied. And this goes also into the importance of like when to run these tests, because like I said, this was actually done in soft launch, so quite late stage, and unfortunately at that stage it was too much of a trouble to then change all the assets in the actual game, and with the little time that product and its runway had left, so therefore like it was too late. So the earlier you do these tests, the better, basically, because then you also don't have to redo all the art in your entire game or product based on the learnings that you've had later. Cool. I guess we'll have the questions later, but like also, yeah.
So thank you, Jesse. So I think we can, if we have questions now, we can try to answer them. So I will read the question. Yeah. So yes, according to your experience and oversight, name please your favorite applications. Which one in your opinion have the best app pages in the stores, or icon, screenshot, etc.?
That's a really good question. This might not be the coolest at this very moment, but something that picked my eye and something that I really loved from design point of view was when Pokemon Go redid their screenshots, and they did like this really cool thing with basically making the in-game elements of the screenshots pop up nicely on top of like the taglines and such. So that was something that I've kind of always remembered. That okay, I think that was super cool. So I think I'll have to be honest and say that was the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, great. So that's it for now. So guys, feel free to ask any questions if you have some. So we will answer them, I think, after my presentation. So thank you, Jesse, one more time. So now I will start with my presentation. Please let me turn on. Oh, so sorry, just a moment. Yeah. So sorry, some technical issues. Well, my name is David. So I hope many of you knows me. So I'm the head of ASO at Checkaso. I'm responsible for running the ASO department, and together with our colleagues and leads, we develop indices and new features, new products for our platform. And Checkaso is an analytical platform that rates your ASO performance and gives you custom tips on how to improve it. If you start with Checkaso, you will find everything you need to compete in stores and of course become number one, I hope. And tools for collecting semantics, analyzing competitors, tracking keywords, gaining insights, localizing for new markets, and more. Also, we have a lot of tools. So let's move to the next slide. And for today, I have a presentation about ASO and how to do ASO before launching the app and what steps to take after the launching the app. And we have a plan here on your slide, you can see on your screen. We'll talk about why is ASO before release important, first of all, how to start with ASO before the release with text ASO, how to compose text elements, how to improve graphic assets, and also how to A/B test your graphic elements, screenshots, icons, etc. And of course, what steps to take when you've already launched your app, and how to measure the success, or what steps to take to better index and gain more installs. So why is ASO important before release? So do you know how many apps in the app stores nowadays? So Apple App Store has about 2 million apps, and Google Play has about 3 million apps. On average, how many apps do you use? I think maybe 10, 15, or sometimes maybe 13, but not much. And the battle for users' attention is fierce, of course, and you need weapons, you need expertise and strategy. A plan like we just upload our app to the store, ask our friends to install it, and then success will come. Could work back in 2008, but of course not now. So I think you should turn your calendar over and don't repeat other people's mistakes. You need, first of all, a detailed and thoughtful marketing strategy to reach your users, to reach the users you want. And of course, ASO is a part of this strategy. And let's talk a little bit how does ASO work if someone don't know. So I will explain shortly. So ASO makes your app more visible in search results, first of all, and users more often find it by keywords, install it more, paying attention to the promo video, preview video, screenshot, or icons that demonstrate the app mechanics and their interface in details. And text ASO makes app closer to competitors' audience, takes their positions by keywords ranks, and graphic ASO helps to convert better and stand out from your competitors. And using different analytical tools, you can optimize text elements of your app with more relevant and popular keywords. Conducting A/B testing, you can find the best creatives that convert traffic to installs and better than your competitors, for example. And ASO is more than just working with text or graphics of text optimization. ASO optimization also involves comprehensive approach that also means dealing with reviews and ratings, working with in-app purchases, working with the internal metrics, because they are very important nowadays, especially when we are talking about Google Play. Also featuring is different, and a lot of other stuff, a lot of other things that you can work with. So next slide, how to start with text ASO before the release. So first of all, you need to start with yourself. Describe your app, find out by what keywords you can be searched for by your potential users and who is your audience. You should understand that first of all. Then identify the major competitors and with the list of keywords, you can find most of your competitors, both manually or using special tools such as our tool Checkaso. And in addition to keywords, you should, of course, pay attention to the top charts of your category or maybe other relevant categories, and similar apps collections on the pages of your competitors, because they show similar relevant apps and you can find a lot of close competitors. And once you've identified your competitors, you need to carefully analyze their metadata and of course indexation. And you can do this manually, as I said before, after you download all index keywords from, for example, any analytic service that offers such option. But there are more convenient tools, of course. For example, with the idea section in Checkaso, you can find out that competitors' keywords are the most popular, by what keywords they get indexed best. Often these are the most relevant ones, and which keywords they use in their metadata and so on. So thanks to this method and the analysis of the most relevant competitors, you will be able to collect a large semantic core and for your further work and for composing text elements. And after you collect large or not large semantic core, you need first of all to prioritize it and prioritize the keywords and select the most suitable, the most relevant for your text elements. And since your app is at the development stage, so we are discussing the development stage of the app, so it's necessary to prioritize keywords according to a little bit specific scenario. And the primary parameter to look out for, of course, is relevance. And it makes no sense to work with keywords that will not make conversion grow and help you attract the right users, especially at the first stages of promotion. So focus on the most relevant keywords for you. So it's the main rule when you work with keywords, and it doesn't matter if the app is not launched or if the app is launched. So work with relevant keywords first of all. The second parameter is the popularity, and remember that you are working with a new app, which means that you are first of all interested in medium and low frequency keywords, because try not to focus on high frequency keywords, as they are most competitive. Apps in the tops by these keywords have been in the store for a very long time and have been actively promoted across all channels, and you simply won't be able to compete with them if you use these keywords, even if you don't have millions of budgets for advertising, for UA. So if you are a simple developer and you don't have a lot of budget for your promos, so focus on low and mid frequency keywords. You need to start small and move on step by steps. And many people, many developers make the same mistakes of using the most popular keywords at this stage. And when they fail to achieve the desired results, of course, they become disappointed in ASO and say that it's not working. But the main problem was that they chose the wrong keywords and didn't prioritize it in the right way. So the next parameters, such as competitiveness and complexity, to assess low competitiveness, to assess how competitive a keyword is, knowing the number of apps indexed by the keyword would be enough, of course. And the fewer they are, the easier it will be to rank in top. So it's quite a simple algorithm. When it comes to complexity, the situation is not that ordinary. So typically difficulty scores in Difficulty scores are based, first of all, on several factors, including the ones I mentioned earlier: keyword popularity, competitiveness, and relevance. And different services have different algorithms for calculating this parameter. You can both make use of the services and estimate the complexity on your own based on available data which you have on your hands. And for example, in Checkaso, we show the complexity on the keywords for each app, which makes it more informative and useful. So you can choose the app, choose the keyword, and we will show the complexity of the current keyword for the current app. So yeah, next move to the next slide. So how to compose text elements before the release? Basically, there isn't much different between working on text elements before and after publishing the app. The workflow is pretty similar, and after you have compiled the semantic core and prioritized keywords, you need to compose the text elements. The text elements vary, of course, by store. For example, there is no keyword field like in App Store on Google Play. And in turn, App Store, unlike Google Play, doesn't index keywords in the description. We also see that in Google Play, we don't have subtitle, but we have it in App Store. But in Google Play, it's called just short description. It's a little bit longer. It has 80 characters, and in App Store only 30. And we also see that in Google Play, we also have full description, which is also indexed by Google Play's algorithms, and it's you can use different and a lot of keywords using the description and get indexed by a bunch of keywords, relevant keywords, popular keywords. So that's a good way to make your indexation, to make your semantic core bigger. Now the next slide, and let's talk a little bit about the title. So since the title is the most important part of indexed metadata, so its composing should be done as responsibly as possible. So you need to keep a balance between keyword usage and readability. So the title should clearly show the idea of the app for the maximum conversion rate, and also should include the most relevant, the most useful keywords for your app. So let's outline the basic rules for composing a title. So make sure you use the maximum number of characters allowed by a store, and it's 30 both for App Store and Google Play now, because as you know, maybe 1 month ago, the Google Play announced that the title will be also 30 characters. So if you haven't changed your title, so I recommend you do so as soon as possible. The second thing, you should make sure you use your brand in the app title, as users are looking for either specific keywords or the app name. But this is first of all for the apps and brands that are even popular, a little bit popular. And if you know that you have an audience that can find you by the brand name, so it's better, of course, to use the brand name in your title. But if your brand is unknown for the most of the users, so you can put the brand name in your icon, and so you will have much characters in your title for the other different keywords, more relevant keywords for your app. So the third thing is that you should use the keywords that are most relevant for your app. So we said it earlier. Do not duplicate words, since this will not enhance the effect in App Store and Google Play words. Do not use competitors' brand names, so it's not allowed but by stores rules, and these may be followed by rejection. So it's a big mistake to use your competitors' brand names in your title, of course. So let's move to the next slide. And here is a subtitle and description, short description. When working on subtitle and short description, you should use the maximum number of characters and also find balance between the keywords being interesting to store algorithms, of course, and at the same time readable, and they should have readable and selling text, so you can convert your potential users, your customers, to install your app. Keep in mind that in App Store, a short description is equally important as the keyword box, so keyword field. So fill it properly to maximize conversion to installs. And also, it's worth remembering that all the words from the title and subtitle in the App Store can form keywords with each other. So use different keywords in these fields because they can make the different keywords, and that will be a big indexation and big semantic core for your app. Working on the app description, so the full description is not indexed in App Store, but it's of course indexed by search engines. Therefore, some keywords will fit just right, but this topic is more, I think, SEO related. But I recommend you in App Store also use keywords, because in Google or Yahoo, you can be indexed by different keywords, and these engines can show your app to the potential customers and users who can install your app. So on Google Play, description is indexed as well as a title and a short description, but is nevertheless important. You don't need to strive for all 4,000 characters, since Google is fighting with spam and long text, and especially if you have a over spam, yeah, as I said before. So try to integrate keywords originally into the text, so that they sound good and in the context. So keywords repetition are not required. Over spam is not required, and you can stop by, for example, 2 repetitions of the word on 3. Depends on your text and how much characters you use. And it's important for Google to understand the general semantic core of your app, so the algorithms can recommend you for other customers, for other users in Google Play. And one more thing, that only about 2% of users read the description in the App Store and Google Play also. Therefore, it almost doesn't affect the conversion to install. Maybe the first 150 characters are important in the App Store, as they are visible on the page, or in Google Play also. But the other part of the text, the most users don't read. So try make your description, first of all, for the Google Play's algorithms, not for the users, because not much of them read your full description. So let's talk about keyword fields, which is in App Store, because we know that we don't have such in Google Play, and it's a very important part of working with text ASO in App Store. So this is a field, this is a kind of box that contains 100 characters, and you can fill them with different words. So we have some tips, of course. You should, all words from the keywords field, title and subtitle, can compose keywords with each other. So try not to duplicate, not to repeat any keywords in these fields, because you should use only the unique words. Separate keywords with commas, so that algorithms can analyze all words correctly and index them. Leave no space between keywords. This will save more space and will not affect indexing. Don't duplicate words, and don't use words that have already been used. So I said before, and in languages that use hieroglyphs, commas and spaces are not required. For example, if you are doing an optimization for example, Korean market, so you don't have to separate with commas your words. They will be indexed without commas, so that's okay. Let's move to the next slide, and how to improve ASO, graphic ASO, and conduct A/B tests before release. So we've finished with text ASO, and now let's talk a little bit with graphic assets. So graphic ASO is, of course, no less important than text ASO. They work together like yin yang, so only in mobile promotion. But text ASO help to make you visible so that users can find you, and graphic ASO helps you make them interested and convert views to installs, of course. So as with the text ASO, it needs competitors analysis to get started. First of all, it's necessary to study the current trends in the category, in the industry, evaluate the positioning of your competitors, and at the same time try to stand out among them. So not try to focus, not try to copy everything that do your competitors. It's not the right way to get a high conversion. Especially when you start your app and you don't have enough impressions, enough views for good traffic. And after you've collected references, you can move on to the concept, right? Terms of reference, because the conversion of the app will depend on its final version. And remember that you only have a few seconds to capture users' attention. So try to make it as simple as it possible to catch the user's eye and to make him install your app. Instead of relying on subjective ideas of good and bad design, use competitive analysis data and conversion rates. So if it's available, of course, if you have data about your maybe competitors' conversion rates, or you can take a look at estimations of the conversion in different countries and different categories. So, and try to guess how your competitors are good or bad in conversion rate. So working with graphics can affect more than design and ASO. This is about marketing, first of all, psychology, analytics, and of course the culture of your target audience. So it's the main thing when you are working with graphic assets. So try to focus on the countries, on their cultural differences. So it's very important in graphic assets. And the comparative analysis can help you understand how you stand out and what mistakes you need to fix first. And let's start with the icon. So on the App Store, we see an icon and screenshots in search results, both. And screenshots attract more users' attention in App Store. And in search result on Google Play Store, we see only an icon. So it's has a greater impact as for me, because we don't see any screenshot. We see only the title, the icons, so and ratings. And in Google Play, of course, you should focus more on the icon. So a dull icon will lead to poor conversion, even if you have lots of impressions and views. So you can create an icon depending on the type of the app, first of all. If you have a recognizable brand, then you can use the logo and brand components as a basis. And games have, of course, more room for design decisions. Still, don't overdo it, as the idea is still important, of course, and try to make it. Even if you work with games, try to make it as simple as possible to make your user catch the eye, the idea of the icon, and make him to tap your apps page. So the icon should be simple. It will be hard to discern if you use a lot of small details. Just add a few elements and make them large. So it will be enough, I think, for your conversion. And of course, you should test it. And the App Store is against including photos and screenshots in the icon. So Google Play doesn't like it when the logo fits the full asset space and there is no air around it. So in both stores, the icon plays a big part in driving traffic from the Explore channel, first of all. Thematic collections, similar apps, category top chats show only the icon and app name and short description. So in this part, the icon is very important, especially when we're talking about the gaming apps, because they gain most part of their installs from the Explore channel. So on Google Play, you can create a special icon for each country you want. So that's why you can localize your icons. These allow you to suit cultural features if you are promoting around the world. And on the App Store, you can use only one icon for all countries, which greatly reduces the optimization opportunities, of course. And I hope one day the App Store will be able to let us use different icons in different countries. So it's crucial to pay attention to the season as well. So each country has its own culture and its own holidays, which you can't ignore, of course. And thus you may lose users, conversions, and your key metrics may drop. So play your cards right when it comes to the icon. So once you've made it, test new updates by changing the color, logo, or all at once. So test will show the user's response and how tuned your graphic ASO is. So that's it for the icon, and let's move to the screenshots. Yeah, and we have also some tips for screenshots. So they play an equally important role in this entire chain of graphic optimization. They may convince users to click the install button when they are already on the app's page. Explore your competitors in the top charts or in the category of your app. Maybe the majority of them are quite similar and do the same things. Thanks to this, you can stand out. For example, you can create panoramic screenshot gallery or use a gradient instead of one color background, for example. Experiment by keeping an eye on competitors' apps. So it's first thing that you should do, try to analyze your competitors and how they play, what they use in their metadata, in their screenshot, and try to stand out. So the App Store and Google Play have, of course, guidelines for the size, quality, the content of the screenshot, and to avoid any problems with moderation, they should be carefully studied. You should study everything and follow all these rules when designing your graphic assets. For example, you can't use graphics that don't reflect the essence of your app. Moderators won't allow such image, and you will have to remake it until they are satisfied with everything, which is of course waste of time. And it's better to do and it's better to do it one at once, and then you will have everything will be okay and you will convert better. Let's move to the next slide, and text on the screenshots. It's the other very important things, text on the screenshot, because they convert users. They let them understand what is your app about and what they can get when they install your app. And it helps to convert users to installs. And also, Google Play's algorithms look at text from screenshots, which affect indexing and ranking for keywords. So you can try to check it. You can use, for example, any keyword in your metadata that you don't have in your text metadata. So use it on your screenshot, and you will see that after some time, Google will index you by this keyword. So place the main keywords in the screenshots. Make your font large and readable. Your text should highlight the main competitive advantages. Avoid long overload sentences. Keep them very short and clear. Of course, you should use call to actions. For example, use now, improve your something, save on your, and etc. etc. So let's summarize the main points for the screenshots. Don't use tiny unreadable text in screenshot. Often Often devices screens are not so large, and users simply will not pay attention to small text. They only will see the big picture, the big screenshot. They won't read your text. So don't take the word screenshot literally, because many just take a screenshot of the interface and limit themselves to it. And it's worth going further and making an attractive screenshot that will convert with light graphics, with good readable captions, and etc. Don't forget to optimize the format of various devices. It's of course necessary to prepare screenshot for all screen sizes for tables, especially when we are working with App Store, because in App Store we have different sizes of the mobile phones, of the iPhones. Also, screenshots should reflect the main idea of your app. Try to show why the user should want to download your app. Keep it simple and clear as much as possible. Also, don't ignore what competitors' screenshots look like. Each genre and category has its own trends, of course, and they need to be considered. But as I said before, don't try to repeat everything. Try to not try to ignore, but try to stand out also. So of course, we have one more option in graphic assets, and it's working on a preview video, promo video. So it's most often used, of course, for games, and as you need to showcase the gameplay, to show the interface gameplay, to attract your users. Preview videos for other categories can replace, for example, onboarding. If you have a very hard app, for example, and a lot of hard mechanics, and that people don't understand, so you can show it in your video and show how to use the app. So first of all, show the main features of your app. It's the main idea. And the preview video is displayed first in the screenshot gallery. On the App Store, a video can be both horizontal and vertical. In Google Play, only horizontal. That means that it completely replaces screenshots. If we are talking about Google Play, the user will see only the video when he click on your app page. So for preview, you can choose a thumbnail that will be displayed before playing the video. And on the App Store, you can select a frame from your footage for a poster frame, any part of your video. And on Google Play, you should upload a special graphic, which is called feature graphic, an image with description, for example. And it will become the most noticeable element of your store listing, because it will be the preview of your video on Google Play. And in addition, the feature graphic affects your conversion rate, because also it's shown in recommended games, similar apps, and other pages on Google Play with different similar apps. It's a preview image displayed when you share a link of the app to maybe in Facebook or Telegram or other social media. So people will see the feature graphic with the link of your app. And of course, it's also used in the ads section if you are running, for example, Google Ads, universal app campaigns. So how to start, how to test graphic before release. So there are 4 main testing methods. Using the Google Play console, if you are working with Google Play, using before-after method, when you firstly change your metadata, then try to analyze it, then you update another one and analyze after updating. And also you can test with search ads if you are working with Apple App Store apps. And the last one are services for metadata testing, third-party tools. So the first 3 options fit only those apps that are already released and available in the store. So we will not consider them now. And in our case, only the option with the use of third-party A/B testing services is suitable. So the essence of this method is that a special page is created that imitates a store page, and paid traffic is directed to it. And special third-party services help to quickly and easily implement this. And you need just to pay for the traffic that goes for testing. So it can be very, of course, expensive. So this is the most accurate method because the services have various tools and a lot of expertise. But the main disadvantage, of course, is that it's the most expensive option. So it may be suitable for those developers who have enough budget for these at the start. And not everyone can allow to test with third-party tools before launching it, the app, unfortunately. But that's the rules of the play of the game when you want to launch your app and do an ASO. So in spite of the testing method, you need to follow certain rules when you are testing with any method. Test one hypothesis at one time. If you test many at once, you will not understand which of them ultimately give the effect. Also test at least for 7 days because users behave differently depending on the day of the week and the category of the app. So it's better to test 7 or more days. Also, you need enough traffic to get representative data. If you only use 200 installs, for example, for each element, for each variant, it will be extremely unrepresentative. So the more installs, the more accurate the test and the data. So try to use at least 1,000 installs for each option. So at least I think it will be enough for new apps. Also, do not draw a conclusion if the difference between the option between the variants is small, because it's desirable that the growth of conversion rate be at least 5%. If you have, for example, 1 or 2%, the data may be just statistical error. So it's better to try to test another option or another graphic assets. So that's it for the graphic assets, and let's talk a little bit about featuring, because you can try to feature your app before your launch. So should you apply to get featured? It's on your own, but on the one hand, you may want to be a part of the editor's choice, and of course secure an audience faster. And on the other hand, at the first stage, your app might have, of course, some bugs or some defects, some errors, as is the case with many new products. We know that if the app is new, we can see some issues, some bugs, and etc. So getting featured can be, of course, a big challenge for you and for any app. And if you still want to take the risk, and if you are ready with your project, if you know that you perform well, so you can follow our advice. Make sure you are technically ready. In particular, make sure you are aware of your server limitations. So if you have a lot of users at one time, everything will be okay. So play it safe by adding a support button to your app. Of course, if users have a negative experience, they will contact you right away instead of using reviews and ratings to get anger of their chats. Because if they go to the store, they will leave a lot of negative reviews, and it will be hard for you in future to compete with your competitors and to rank higher. And it's quite important to select a right release date for your app, as you want to be able to move it, because you should submit your app at least 2 2 weeks before date X before you're featuring, but 6-8 weeks is better terms as app developers advise based on their experience first of all. So we have a detailed post on how to get featured. You can go and check our blog, Checkaso blog, and we have a lot of information on how to get featured and how to take steps. So what to do after launching the app? So I think everything is familiar. Everybody is familiar with ASO and what to do to improve the ASO. So I will say the first about the first stages when you already launched your app. So in order for the ASO work before the release to bring maximum results, you need to launch the app correctly, first of all, as we said earlier. And before release, you need to fully think not only through your ASO, but also through your marketing strategy. This is necessary in order to enhance the effect of pre-optimization of your ASO, and the algorithms of both stores take into account external traffic sources and better promote those apps that use them, those apps that use user acquisition channels. From the first days of release, you can use external sources, both free, for example, social networks, Facebook, Instagram, thematic sites, forums, etc., and paid channels, Facebook, Instagram ads, Google ads, Apple search ads, and etc. So thus you will not only get indexed faster for the keywords that you need, but you can also take good ranks on them. And it's worth noting that the App Store and Google Play algorithms work a little bit different ways, and keywords are indexed in Apple App Store within 1 or 2 days, and this means that the result of your text ASO will be visible almost immediately. But there is a small bonus if we are talking about App Store. It gives a kind of a boost for new apps, and if you use external traffic sources in a parallel together with ASO, so you can significantly increase your chances of success. You can rank higher and gain a lot of organic traffic in first maybe 7 days. Google Play is much slower, and indexation takes more time, and it all depends on the app and many other factors. On average, indexing can take up to 1 month or even more. Sometimes it can take 2 months. In order to speed up this process and as much as possible and get good ranks, good indexation, it's also necessary and will be good for your app to use external traffic sources. Thus, you will not only get new users, but also good ranks and prospects for further optimization, and also you will have a traffic that will leave the reviews, and you can see how your app performs if you have any bugs, issues. So it's a good way to test your app if you haven't done a soft launch, for example. So after then, everything is in your hands. Constant ASO iterations and work on metadata, indexing, app rating, and etc. And don't forget that integrated approach and patience, of course, are important in this matter, and especially when we are talking about optimization. So that's it for today. Thank you for being with me. And one more thing, we have a special gift for you. And if you didn't see our ebook about ASO, you can scan the QR code and get a free ASO book. Everything about ASO, how to do optimization, how to work with graphic assets, how to conduct A/B testing, how to test hypotheses different, and etc. So scan with your mobile phone, or you can take a screenshot on your laptop and scan a little bit later. let's move to the YouTube translation and take a look if we have questions. So I think we were good today with you. Yes, we don't have any questions. Everything was everything was pretty clear for our viewers. So I'm very happy. So we were together with you, Jesse, today. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was really cool. I will see one more time in on the YouTube because a lot of interesting information, and I hope users will be happy too with the useful information, for useful insights for them for working. So try to continue with your mobile apps to get more insights, to get more installs, and everything will be okay. I hope and I believe in that. So if you have some few words for the last, you can, yes, sir.
Oh, thanks. That was also great and super informative from your end. So it was pleasant to actually listen and see a presentation. And one of the things I want to highlight, because everyone always asks whether or not that's true, that people actually did, like the 2 to 5% of people actually read the full description. Yeah. And it is true. That's
true. Yes,
it's
true.
Insane. It's insane. So you can truly do pretty much whatever you want in there.
People don't want to read; they want to download and start playing your app or using your playing your game or using your app. So that's why you should focus on the algorithms first of all, not on your users' conversion.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome.
So thanks everyone. Thanks. Yes, and have a good day.